Alright, listen up, family. What you are about to hear is not a rumor. This is not gossip. This is not another one of those internet whispers that dissolve by sundown. Homicide detectives, the real ones, the ones who kick doors, the ones who read Miranda rights, the ones who show up in unmarked cars with clipboards and questions, are right now knocking on doors in Baltimore, and every single question coming out of their mouths has the same 3 syllables inside it. Chrisean Rock. That is not me talking. That is not a blog post. That is not a Twitter thread from an anonymous account with a cartoon avatar. That is a real man in Baltimore who came forward on camera, shaking, sweating, telling the whole internet the police pulled up to his front porch and told him they need him downtown, and the only reason they need him is because they want to know what he knows about Chrisean Rock. And the moment I saw this, family, I said to myself, we are watching a woman walk into the ending of her own story in real time, and half the people watching still think this is a music video. You want to know how bad this got? How deep this water is right now? How fast this thing is moving under the surface? The same afternoon Chrisean Rock stood on a live stream, grinning ear to ear, giggling with her friends, with a suitcase behind her the size of a small refrigerator, announcing to millions of followers that she is packing up her whole life and moving out of the country. That same afternoon, on that same day, a homicide unit was already asking about her by name. That is not a coincidence, family. That is not a scheduling accident. That is not the universe rolling dice. That is a woman running. And she knows she is running. Watch her mouth. Watch her eyes. Watch how she says the words. Watch the way she cut herself off mid-sentence when one of her friends tried to give away the details of where she is going. She is not moving out the country for peace. She is not moving out the country for love. She is not moving because she wants to raise her son on a beach. She is moving because something big and heavy and legal is closing in on her, and she can feel it breathing on her neck. And every single person who has ever spent 5 minutes in a green room with Chrisean Rock, every single person who has ever sat in a studio with her, every single person who has ever been in the same room with her when the cameras cut off, every one of those people knows that when Chrisean Rock is running, Chrisean Rock is running from something real. Now let me rewind, because I need every single one of you to understand the road that got us here, and I need you to understand it exactly the way it happened, in the exact order it happened, because when the dominoes fall, and they will fall, I want you to remember I told you first. I want you to remember the day you sat down and watched this video, and I laid it out like a map, and every single road on that map led right back to the same front door. Rock had a man before Blueface. His name was Ronnie. Baltimore born, Baltimore raised, from a family with a mother, a grandmother, sisters, and aunts who spoiled him because he was the only boy in that whole bloodline. That is not me inventing color, family. That is what Rock herself said about him on camera. She said his family was a good family. She said his mother, his grandmother, his aunts, they would have worshipped her little girl. She said, on record, that Ronnie loved her. And by every account of the people who actually knew him, he loved that woman like a religion. Her own biological sister said it on camera. She said Ronnie loved that girl. She said they were family. She said she used to feed that boy. So when Chrisean Rock got pregnant and the whole world started asking who the father was, guess who came forward and would not back down? Ronnie. He said, on record, out loud, in front of God and Instagram, that baby is mine. She said no, the baby belongs to Blueface. Blueface said, on record, out loud, that baby is not mine, that baby is Ronnie's. So Ronnie did the only thing a man in his position could do. He took her to court. He filed the paperwork. He hired an attorney. He asked a judge to order a paternity test. And the judge said yes. Peep this. In 4 to 6 weeks, God willing, Chrisean is going to be required to do a court-ordered paternity test. That was Ronnie's attorney speaking on video, on record, in front of a camera. 4 to 6 weeks. Mark that number, family. Circle it. Highlight it. Tattoo it on your brain. Because that number is the reason a man is dead. That number is the alarm clock that never got to ring. That number is the countdown on a bomb that somebody in the shadows decided to defuse the only way they knew how, by removing the person holding the timer. Before we go a single sentence further, drop your verdict in the comments right now. Do you believe Chrisean Rock is capable of what people are saying? Type yes, type no, type maybe, but do not scroll past this without letting me know where you stand, because what I am about to tell you is going to make everyone in this comment section pick a side, and there will be no fence left to sit on by the time we finish this story. Ronnie did not just file paperwork and sit at home waiting for the mail to arrive. Ronnie was not that kind of man. Ronnie pulled up. He showed up on her in person in Baltimore. He walked right up to her in public. He called her out on camera in front of a crowd. He told the whole street, "This is my son, this is my blood, this is my junior," he said, "That is my junior, that is my junior, that is my junior," 3 times, back to back to back, like a man swearing on his life in a courtroom. He called her every name in the book. He called her a police type of person. He dared her to call the police on him. He told her nobody in that crowd was going to touch him. He put every ounce of himself on the record, his voice, his face, his fists clenched at his sides, that Chrisean Jr. was his baby, and no other man on this earth was going to take that from him. And exactly 1 week before the paternity test that would have proven it, 1 week, family, 7 days, 168 hours, Ronnie was shot to death outside his own house. Sit with that. Sit with that for a second. 1 week. Not 6 months. Not 2 years. 7 days before a judge was going to make a woman prove who fathered her child, the man asking the question caught 10 bullets to the chest in his driver's seat. 10. Not 1. Not 2. Not 5. 10. And here is where it gets colder than the winter, family. Colder than any story I have ever sat down and told you. Nobody came outside for 10 minutes. Not the neighbor. Not the passerby. Not the delivery guy. Not the mailman. Not a soul. For 10 full minutes Ronnie sat in that car bleeding out, and the block was silent as a graveyard on a Sunday. Whoever did this wanted it done fast, wanted it done clean, and wanted nobody to help. This was not a robbery. This was not a random beef. This was not a stray bullet from a street war. This was a person who pulled up, got out, walked to a specific car door, emptied a clip into a specific man, got back in another car, and drove off into the night like they had a receipt. The neighbor who eventually walked over said Ronnie was gone before help ever came. He said he waited about 10 minutes to make sure the coast was clear, because that is what you do in a neighborhood where gunshots are a warning, not a starting pistol. He said he tried to lay Ronnie on his side. He said Ronnie was everywhere, meaning the blood, meaning what was inside the man was now outside the man. He said there was no way that boy was going to be saved. Not that night. Not by him. Not by anybody. There was no coming back from that. And by the time the sirens came, the killer was already halfway across the city, and the car that pulled up behind Ronnie's was already a ghost in someone's garage. Now. You could say that was a coincidence. You could say Baltimore is a rough town and men catch stray bullets in Baltimore every week. You could say Ronnie had street beef we did not know about, and it just happened to catch up with him 7 days before the biggest court date of his life. And listen, family, that is a fair thing to say, and I am not going to sit here and be the judge and jury with no evidence. I am not that person. I have never been that person. I do not put people in prison in my comment section. But let me lay a few more bricks on this wall before you decide whether it holds up, because the bricks keep coming, and every single one of them has one name written on it in permanent marker. Because the very next thing that happened is the reason homicide detectives are asking questions today. The biological sister, flesh and blood, the woman who grew up in the same house, the woman who ate at the same table, the woman who knows Chrisean Rock the way only a sister can know a sister, sat down on Jason Lee's platform and told the world what she thought happened. She did not say her sister did it. She never said the words. But watch this, family, because this is where the language matters more than any language has ever mattered in a single interview. She said, and I want you to hear the exact energy of this, if I was to speak on it, it does not look too good for certain people that we know. She said, I fed that boy. She said, we were family. She said, it was passionate but it was cloudy. And then she said the sentence that broke the internet in half. She said Ronnie had a paternity test coming up. And then it was pow pow pow. And then no paternity test. Read that sentence one more time in your own head. He had a paternity test coming up. Then pow pow pow. Then no paternity test. That is not gossip. That is not speculation. That is not internet noise. That is a woman who shares DNA with Chrisean Rock on a public platform, on video, connecting 3 dots in a single breath, court date, bullets, and cancellation, and daring the world to draw the 4th line herself. That is a woman who chose her words like a person walking through a minefield in high heels. She said everything without saying anything. And the internet heard every word of it. Now, hold on, because I already hear you typing in the comments. You are saying, look, hold up, the sister never actually said she did it. And you are right. She never said the words. She insinuated it. She hinted it. She placed it inside a sentence and let it hang in the air like a chandelier over a dining room table. And that, family, is what a person does when they know something they cannot legally say out loud. Ask any attorney. Ask any journalist. Ask any prosecutor. That is the exact shape of a confession that has learned how to duck a subpoena. That is the exact shape of a person saying, I know what my sister did, but I am not going to be the one who sends her to prison, so I am going to say it in a way that lets everybody else say it for me. But let us keep going, because this is where it stops being interpretation and starts being math. Chrisean Rock herself did something on camera that made every single person watching this story lean a little closer to the screen. When a reporter asked her about the sister's insinuation, she did not deny it clean. She did not say, I loved that man, I would never. She did not say, God knows my heart, I had nothing to do with this. She did not cry. She did not break down. She did not fall apart. What she said was, and I want you to hear this exactly the way it came out of her mouth, she said Ronnie trolled himself into a grave. Trolled himself into a grave, family. Say that out loud. Trolled himself into a grave. Then she caught herself. She caught herself so fast it was like watching somebody trip over their own tongue in real time and try to swallow the words back down. And she pivoted. She said, oh no, he had street beef. He was already beefing with people out there. It had nothing to do with me. He was doing what he was doing in the streets. That is what got him. That is his own family, his own life, his own decisions. But hold up. Rewind that in your mind. If Ronnie had street beef, real street beef, deep street beef, the kind of beef that gets a man shot 10 times in his own driveway, why did nobody online know about it? Why did no rappers make a song about it? Why did no accounts on Instagram post about it? Why did no anonymous tipster on Reddit ever mention it? Because Ronnie was not trolling street dudes on Instagram. He was not beefing with anonymous shooters on Twitter. He was not throwing up rival flags in Baltimore. The only person he was publicly at war with on the internet was the mother of the child he was fighting for. So when she says he trolled himself into the grave, family, whose grave was he trolling himself into? Because there is only one grave he was digging on the internet, and it was the grave of a paternity test. And the person on the other side of that grave was standing right there with a shovel. That is not me making things up. That is not conspiracy. That is not a stretch. That is the math. That is the arithmetic of a story that has more holes than a screen door in July, and every single hole in that door lines up with the same shadow. And then Blueface got out of jail and sat down with Jason Lee, and Blueface said something that made every homicide detective in Baltimore lean forward in their chair and reach for their pens. He said his ex and Ronnie were on the phone the night Ronnie died. On the phone, family. Not the day before. Not the week before. The night. Now, that could mean 100 things. It could mean nothing. It could mean everything. But Blueface also called the mother of his alleged child a setup artist. On camera. Publicly. He said, from his own personal experience, she is known to give out addresses. He said she is known to be impulsive. He said she is known to be spur of the moment. He said she is known to move on a person in a way that goes way past a phone call. He said this is not a rumor about her. This is a fact about her. This is a thing she has done to him before. And when you overlay Blueface's testimony on top of the sister's insinuation on top of Rock's own slip-up on camera, you do not need a badge to see the shape of what is being described. You do not need a law degree. You do not need a detective's manual. You just need eyes. And a working memory. And 2 functioning ears. Take a breath with me, family. Because I need you to understand, I am not the police. I am not a court. I am not a judge. I am not a district attorney. I am a person on the internet telling you what other people are saying with their own mouths, on their own platforms, on their own public records. And what they are saying about Chrisean Rock right now is a symphony that only plays one note, and that note is guilty. Every horn in the orchestra. Every string. Every drum. The same note. Over and over and over. And the conductor is a homicide detective in Baltimore who does not care about hip-hop, does not care about live streams, does not care about brand deals, and does not care about the number of followers a person has. Now let us talk about the man who came forward. Because this is where the whole thing stops being talk and starts being paperwork. This is where the internet story becomes a legal file. A man in Baltimore posted a video to his platform this week, hands shaking, eyes darting, voice cracking, and he said, and I am paraphrasing but the words are close, the homicide detectives came knocking on my door yesterday. Yesterday. And I am scheduled to sit down with them Monday. He said, this is not a game. This is not a joke. I do not play with the police. And now I am going to go voluntarily talk to them about a homicide investigation. That is his mouth. That is his words. That is on video, and half the internet has seen it already, and the other half is about to. Then he said the sentence that made every one of her real friends turn off their phones and delete their group chats. He said, y'all girl might be in trouble. Y'all girl might be in trouble. He said the officer told him, in his own words, the police already see through what she is doing. They see through the trolling. They see through the character she plays on the internet. They see through everything she puts on the timeline. And they still want to talk to him about her. Not despite it. Because of it. Because they think whatever she is broadcasting is a smokescreen, and the real story is underneath it, and this man from Baltimore might be one of the last people who knows what is underneath it. That is not a rumor, family. That is a witness list forming in real time. That is the sound of a case being built brick by brick while a woman on a live stream grins and shows off a suitcase and giggles about moving to a country whose name she will not say out loud. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Chrisean Rock is dumb enough to actually do this herself, or do you think she was smart enough to have somebody else do it? Because those are the only 2 doors left in this hallway, and behind both of them is a prison cell. And I need to know where you stand, because the comments section on this video is going to be one of the most important comment sections we have ever had on this channel. And when the news cycle catches up to what we are already saying here tonight, I want your comment to be the receipt that proves you were paying attention when the rest of the internet was asleep at the wheel. And here is the part that keeps me up at night. This is not the first time violence has orbited this woman. Her own brother is sitting in a cell right now on a murder charge. That is a fact. That is public record. You can look it up. Ronnie himself, the man who died, reportedly caught a case for shooting a man on her behalf. Read that again. On her behalf, family. Meaning, at some point before he died, Ronnie was already known to be a man willing to pull a trigger for her name, for her honor, for her problems. And that is the very same man who then decided to publicly demand a paternity test she did not want to give. That is the very same man who turned his own gun-carrying loyalty inside out and pointed it at the woman he had once been willing to shoot for. And then he ended up dead. Somebody explained to me, in the comments, how a man moves from being a woman's trigger man to being a woman's threat, and then to being a woman's headline, without that woman being somewhere in the story. You are watching a pattern. You are watching a woman who is orbited on all sides by men and women willing to pick up steel for her name. A brother in prison for murder. An ex-boyfriend in a grave with 10 bullets in him. A sister speaking in code on podcasts. A rapper baby daddy calling her a setup artist. A man in Baltimore telling the internet the homicide detectives are looking at her. And now the one man who could have shattered her public narrative with a single DNA swab is dead in a car with 10 holes in him, and the police are asking about her by name, and she is on a plane out of the country. Read all of those sentences one after another. Do not skip one. Read them slow. Then tell me, in the comments, whether that pattern reads like a coincidence, or whether that pattern reads like a receipt. Now catch this. I want to be fair. I want to be fair, family, because I have been on the internet long enough to know that a story with a woman at the center of it gets treated 100 times harder than a story with a man at the center of it, and I do not want to be that person. I do not want to be the person who threw the first stone. So let me say the fair thing, and I want to say it slowly. Chrisean Rock has not been charged. She has not been arrested. She has not been convicted. She has not sat in front of a grand jury. She has not seen a courtroom on this case. Everything the internet is saying about her right now is speculation, insinuation, and pattern recognition until a district attorney says otherwise in writing. And the man in Baltimore who is talking to homicide detectives might not have a single useful thing to say when he actually gets in that room. This whole case might close with no arrest, no indictment, no headlines, no consequences. That is a real possibility. I am not going to sit here and pretend it is not. But you know what else is a real possibility, family? A very real one. That she is moving out the country because her lawyer told her to. That her sister is speaking in half sentences because her sister already knows what her sister knows and cannot unknow. That Blueface is running his mouth on every podcast that will book him because he knows that when the paperwork comes, he does not want a single fingerprint of his on this. That every single person orbiting her right now is preparing for the sound of a door being kicked in at 4 a.m. That everybody in her circle is already writing the version of the story they will tell when the cameras come. That the plane ticket in her suitcase is not a vacation ticket at all, it is a getaway ticket dressed up in vacation clothes. And there is a child in the middle of all of this. There is a real, living, breathing baby boy in the middle of this. Chrisean Jr., a baby boy who did not ask to be born into this. A baby boy whose father Blueface still refuses to claim to this day. A baby boy whose alleged biological father Ronnie is now buried in a Baltimore cemetery. A baby boy whose mother might be one paternity swab away from an indictment for the murder of the man who might actually be his father. If she walks into a courtroom for a murder charge, and let me be crystal clear, family, that is a real possibility now, not a fantasy, not a hypothetical, not a fan fiction plot. Who raises that child? Blueface says the child is not his. Ronnie is dead. Her brother is locked up. Her sister is speaking in code on podcasts. Where does that leave Chrisean Jr.? Where does that baby wake up? Whose arms does he cry into? Whose face does he see first thing in the morning? Whose voice does he learn to trust? That is the question that should be trending. That is the question the internet is not asking, because the internet is too busy laughing at the memes and clipping the live streams and posting the fight compilations. But this is a child. A real child. A living, breathing, human child whose entire family tree is currently either dead, incarcerated, distancing, or about to be indicted. And nobody in that whole bloodline is looking at that baby the way that baby needs to be looked at. And that, family, is a sentence that hurts to say out loud. That is the sentence I lose sleep over. That is the sentence that will still be true when every other sentence in this video is old news. That is the sentence that no verdict, no trial, no plea deal, no press release, no PR statement, no interview, no book deal, and no Netflix documentary will ever be able to unwrite. Chrisean Jr. is going to carry this story on his back into every classroom, every locker room, every job interview, and every relationship of his entire adult life. And nobody, not a single grown person in this entire circus, is putting that baby first. Now let me pull the camera back one more time, because I need every single one of you to see the full picture. The bird's eye view. The whole board. This story is not just about Ronnie. This story is not just about the mother. This story is not just about Blueface. This story is about what happens when the internet turns a person into a brand, and the brand turns the person into a weapon, and the weapon turns the person into a headline. She did not become who she is by accident. We watched it. All of us watched it. Every single person clicking play on this video watched it happen. We watched a young woman from Baltimore with real talent, real charisma, real magnetism, real fire, get chewed up by fame, spit out by a toxic relationship with Blueface, propped up by an audience that loved the chaos, and abandoned by every single safety net that could have caught her. She did not have a mother in the room saying no. She did not have a father figure saying no. She did not have a manager, an agent, a therapist, a pastor, a friend from before the fame saying no. She had an internet, and the internet said yes to everything. The internet said yes to the fights. The internet said yes to the meltdowns. The internet said yes to the pregnancy on a birthday. The internet said yes to Chrisean Jr. being born into a war zone. The internet made her. And now the internet is watching to see if the internet has to bury her. There is a version of this story where she walks away. There is a version where the detectives close the file, the witness has nothing, the sister recants, Blueface stops talking, the physical evidence goes cold, and Chrisean Rock lives out her days on some island somewhere raising her son and dropping music videos on YouTube. That version is possible. That version is on the table. I have to say that out loud, because it is true. That version has receipts too. There are plenty of cases that die in a manila folder in a homicide office and never see a courtroom. That could be this one. It could be. I am not going to lie to you. But there is another version. A version where a plane ticket is not fast enough. A version where the paperwork moves faster than the packing. A version where an international arrest warrant lands on a customs desk before a plane can take off. A version where she is sitting in an interrogation room by the end of the month while the world watches through a live stream that will not be hers to control. A version where a jury of 12 strangers in a Baltimore courtroom decides what happens to Chrisean Jr. for the rest of his life. And that version, family, is looking more real every single day. Every single hour. Every single time another witness picks up the phone and calls the tip line instead of a podcast host. Now hold on, because I want to be honest about one more thing before we finish. When I first started following this story, I did not want to believe it. I did not want to believe a woman I have been watching for years, a woman whose come up I cheered for, a woman whose first knockouts I watched, a woman whose Bad Boys episodes I stayed up for, could be capable of this. I wanted a different ending. I wanted a paternity test that never happened for boring reasons. I wanted a shooting that had nothing to do with her. I wanted Ronnie to have a beef we did not know about. I wanted this to be one of those internet stories that turns out to be nothing. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to sit here in a month and say, family, remember when we thought this was going to be huge? Yeah, it turned out to be nothing. I wanted to look silly. I wanted to be embarrassed. I wanted to be the person who overreacted. But then I watched the way she treated her own child on camera. I watched the way she talked about that baby. I watched the way she handled him in videos she posted herself, videos she chose to make public, videos she wanted the world to see. And something in me shut a door on her that I could not open again. It was not the Blueface drama. It was not the fights on live stream. It was not the fame. It was watching a woman handle her own baby in a way no baby should be handled, and I said to myself, I do not know who this person is anymore. I do not know what she is capable of anymore. And every single thing that has happened since that moment has only made that door heavier and heavier and heavier, and today, with homicide detectives asking about her by name, that door feels like it is made of steel and set in concrete. Tell me where you stand in the comments. I want to hear it. Every one of you. Do you believe Chrisean Rock is guilty? Do you believe her sister said what her sister said by accident? Do you believe the man in Baltimore is telling the truth about the detectives? Do you believe Blueface knows more than he is saying? Give me your verdict, family, one word, one sentence, one paragraph, one essay, I do not care how long it is, but I want to hear it. Because if this case breaks the way it is looking like it might break, this comment section is going to be the receipts. This comment section is going to be the record. This comment section is going to be where the internet remembers who said what and when, and I want your name to be in the record on the right side of history. I want you to be able to scroll back to this video in 6 months and point at your own comment and say, I called it. I saw it. I was there before the arrest. And before you scroll away, one last thing, and I need you to hear this. There is a name people are not saying out loud on this story, and it is not Chrisean Rock, and it is not Blueface, and it is not Ronnie. It is the name of the person who actually pulled that trigger. Somebody drove that car. Somebody got out. Somebody walked up to a man sitting in his driver's seat in his own driveway and put 10 bullets into his chest and drove away like it was a grocery run. That is a real human being. That person is still walking around Baltimore right now. That person is still breathing, still eating, still sleeping, still going to church on Sundays if they go to church. And whoever that person is knows exactly whose phone call put them in that driveway. And when the detectives kick the last door in this case, family, the whole house is going to fall, because a shooter under pressure will trade a name to save his own skin every single time, and the name he trades is not going to be a name we do not already know. It is going to be the same name that has been floating in every comment section, on every podcast, in every live stream chat, for the last 12 months. Chrisean Rock might make it to the airport. She might beat this case. She might walk into her 40s with a book deal and a Netflix documentary and a reality show about her comeback. Anything is possible in America. Anything. But the story of Ronnie is not going anywhere. The story of a man who caught 10 bullets a week before he could prove he had a son, that story is a ghost, and ghosts do not sign non-disclosure agreements. That ghost is going to knock on her door for the rest of her life, whether or not she ever wears handcuffs. That ghost is going to sit at the foot of Chrisean Jr.'s bed every single night for the next 18 years. That ghost is going to show up in every song she ever writes, every interview she ever gives, every relationship she ever tries to build. And that, family, is a sentence she cannot outrun, no matter how far the plane flies, no matter how many countries she crosses, no matter how many new names she tries to build. I have been in this internet game for a long time. I have watched a lot of stories break. I have seen a lot of celebrities fall. I have seen a lot of scandals get buried. I have seen a lot of people walk into a courtroom and walk out with everything intact. I have also seen a lot of people walk into a courtroom and never come back out. But this one hits different. This one hits different from anything I have covered. This one has a body. This one has a child. This one has a mother, a sister, an ex-boyfriend, a homicide detective, a witness, a public confession dressed up as a slip of the tongue, and a suitcase packed for a country whose name is a whisper. And when a story has all of those ingredients at the same time, family, that story does not stay a story. That story turns into a case, and the case turns into an indictment, and the indictment turns into a trial, and the trial turns into the last chapter of somebody's public life. And once you are in that chapter, there is no editing it. There is no take back. There is no delete button. There is only a verdict, and there is only a sentence, and there is only a headline that follows a person into every room they walk into for the rest of their life. Watch the next 30 days. Watch the next 60 days. Watch the next 90 days. Do not blink. Do not look away. Do not unfollow this channel. Because the moment those detectives finish sitting down with that man in Baltimore, everything in this saga is going to shift, and half the people laughing right now, half the people posting memes right now, half the people making TikToks about the suitcase right now, are going to be pretending they were on the right side the whole time. And I need you to remember exactly where you were sitting when you first heard the truth, because the truth is coming, family, and it is coming fast, and it is coming from Baltimore. And when it lands, the whole entertainment world is going to hold its breath at the same time, because a person we all watched grow up on the internet is going to walk into a courtroom, and the internet is going to have to decide whether it is going to keep watching or whether it is going to finally look away. One more thing before I sign off, and this is the piece I need you to sit with tonight after you close this app. Every empire that has ever fallen has fallen the same way. First the friends stop calling. Then the family starts talking. Then a stranger comes forward with information. Then the police come knocking. Then the suitcase gets packed. And then somebody catches a flight. Read that sequence one more time and tell me, in the comments, which step Chrisean Rock is on right now. Because from where I am sitting, family, she is not on step 1. She is not on step 2. She is standing on step 5 with a boarding pass in her hand, and the only thing left to find out is whether the plane takes off before the handcuffs come out. So here is what I want you to do tonight before you close this app. Save this video. Bookmark it. Share it with the one friend of yours who always says the internet blows everything out of proportion. Send it to the one cousin of yours who does not believe anything until CNN says it out loud. Because in the next 30 to 60 days, every single word I said in this video is either going to age into the truth, or it is going to age into a lesson about how far the internet can run with a story. Either way, you were here. Either way, you saw it in real time. Either way, you get to say you watched the moment when the whole thing tipped. That is the tea for tonight, family. If this video hit different, if this story moved you, if this whole breakdown put pieces together for you that you did not have 5 minutes ago, do me one favor and drop the comment, drop the like, and stay locked in for the next update. Because I am not going anywhere, and neither is this story, and neither is the woman at the center of it, no matter what country she lands in. And I will catch y'all in the very next one.